one of our PDR Posse members, one of our supporters, Bruce, sent me a clip from a Jordan Peterson. I hadn't known about Jordan Peterson, but apparently he's a very well-known conservative, someone I have to call right-wing after listening to him, and not only right-wing but disingenuous. I want to play this because messaging is everything, and what we have to do is make sure, first of all, to fight the lies and the messages that come from the right, number one, numero uno, but numero dos, we have to have the answers to the truth, but not only the truth, to what makes us a better people. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
If the postmodernists were compassionate and they were using that as the default aim in their life, let's say, because they don't have any other aim because of their postmodern relativism, you'd have to accept the compassion idea. But because they're ignoring the historical reality that the doctrines that they're trying to put into practice were murderous beyond belief, then I can't accept the argument that it's compassion that's driving. Nietzsche knew, for example, and he wrote about this in his notebooks in Will to Power, that the nihilistic doctrines that would emerge in the aftermath of the demolition of the theological and philosophical substructure of the West that he associated with the revelation of the death of God would produce a form of political catastrophe. And he identified it specifically, believe it or not, with communism. And that was back in like 1850, 1860. I can't believe he did it. And that would kill tens to hundreds of millions of people in the 20th century. And it's certainly not obvious that the postmodernists that, let's say, infest the modern universities have been willing to learn anything at all from 20th century history. Not least the lesson that the egalitarian and equity-oriented doctrines that they're attempting to foist upon young people in this cult-like educational manner are anything but murderous. Anyways, here's what Nietzsche said. For that man be delivered from revenge, that is for me the bridge to the highest hope, and a rainbow after long storms. The tarantulas, of course, would have it otherwise. Quote, what justice means to us is precisely that the world will be filled with the storms of our revenge. End quote. Thus they speak to each other. We shall wreak vengeance and abuse on all whose equals we are not. Thus do the tarantula hearts vow. And will to equality shall henceforth be the name for virtue. And against all that has power, we want to raise our clamor. You preachers of equality, the tyrant mania of impotence clamors thus out of you for equality. Your most secret ambition is to be tyrants and shroud yourselves in words of virtue. The intellectuals in the academy look out at the world and they notice that there are others who are respected perhaps more than they are, and there are others that have perhaps more than they are, and that goods are inequitably distributed beyond them. And the consequence of that is the emergence of the tremendous resentment that Nietzsche spoke of. The desire of that resentment is to pull down the hierarchies by criticizing them. That's the motivation. Well, that's what I've been thinking about more intensely than usual for about the last 8 months. I haven't been able to figure out any way out of the logical argument that I just presented to you. And if that argument is correct, then that's a diagnosis for what's happening in the politically correct world and actually what its motivations are. And I believe that my argument is it's accurate, and it's destroying the universities, and it's invading the rest of our society. And the idea that there's something good behind it, that's a dangerous idea. I think what's behind it is exactly what Nietzsche noted 150 years ago. It's resentment and the demand for power, disguising itself most reprehensibly as compassion. And it's time for the mask of that to be taken off and things set straight.
I would have to consider Jordan the biggest artist of projection. Because if you take a listen to what he said, let me first tell you what I did. I saw this piece late last night, and then I said, I had to do something with it, and then I incorporated it into the newsletter for today. And I want to read parts of what I said. I said, those of you who have been a part of Politics Done Right, the Politics Done Right family, know that one of my most important tenets is keeping the conversation open on all sides. One of our supporters sent the link that you just saw. Jordan Peterson is discussing postmodernism. And by the way, remember, when he's talking about the postmodernists or these people, he's really talking about progressive left-wingers, folks like myself and others who believe in good social structures that help all people. But anyway, so he sent me this, and if you notice, they're always constantly trying to connect us with Marxism, communism, socialism. They want to scare people, right? So that is their intent. Scare people so that those who support policies that are social in nature to help people have a better life can't. They want to keep that select few in power. So I wrote, I am just an engineer turned political activist, determined to do my part to empower the masses to claim their worth to this society, which in the case of America was denied most from its inception. Most people from the inception of America, they were never designed to have. In other words, the society wasn't made for them. I do not traffic in high-minded platitudes of little consequence to the reality of most, which is what he just did. He used a lot of words, but he could not tell you one thing other than saying, I hate the left, and what the left want to do is tyrannical. I don't know where he got that from, but we'll continue. I find Peterson to be one who uses many words, some that many will have to research given the state of our educational system, but one who has nothing specific to say. His disdain for those who acknowledge or pass evil as they propose not just atonement but material resolution is not just appalling but disqualifying. You know, he's out there saying that what we on the left want is tyrannical. If you take a look at Cuba, you take a look at Venezuela, you take a look at China, you take a look at the US Soviet republics when it was the USSR, now Russia, you can see that everything that the left talks about is tyrannical and hurts people, kill people. He even said that, Nietzsche said that if you follow the policies pretty much of what we believe in, that somehow millions would die, right? But wait a minute. In order to create this social construct that we have that actually is nothing, well, the economic system that we have, which to form did what again? It annihilated the native people of the land. In other words, it used them, enslaved them, it killed them, it robbed them, it did all of that. The capitalist system. I'm not talking about people, the individual, which I think most people are good. Capitalists, of course, are generally what I consider many of the real, the billionaire type capitalists, most of them I really consider psychopaths. If you take a look at what they did to acquire what they have, it was always on the back of somebody, right? In other words, we got rid of the Indians, we took their land. We wanted to produce cotton, we wanted to do all these things with the land, we brought in slaves. The slaves, we worked on the back of the slaves that we bought from Africa and brought over here. And then, in order to get other things throughout the world, we invaded countries. We went ahead and took the natural resources from other countries that we are not deserving of. All these things we do. All the things that he is talking about that the left would accomplish, because look at Cuba, look at Venezuela, look at Russia. He forgets. Projection is dangerous. Look, I am an American. I love this country. And I want this country to live up to the expectation of those people who have believed the rhetoric that those of us that are foreign, naturalized U.S. citizens that we have learned before we got here. We learned about the land of milk and honey. We learned about democracy. We didn't realize some of the things that weren't yet realized. Okay, so continue. So he goes ahead and he talks about the left pretty much being tyrannical. But he forgets all the things that he says are the things that we as a people have done unto others. From genocide in America, and it's not only America genocide here. We're talking from the North America to Central America to South America, genocide. What else have we done? Enslaved from North America to Central America to South America. And we have the gall now to believe that somehow we are omnipotent and we are the ones who are the bastion of morality and cannot discuss evil and good, those of us on the left. Come on. So I continue. Peterson attempts to disqualify the left by asserting they are devout Marxists. He then implies that the policies they want have only been tried by tyrannical states. One, of course, he fails to note that tyrannical states, most on the left would like to be, most of us kind of admire the social states within Scandinavia, the Scandinavian countries. Of course, my personal belief is that the Scandinavian countries have not gone far enough because they still have an economic system whose base, in other words, if you're selling stock into something, it means that If you sell stock into something, it's not really free enterprise, it's capitalism. And this type of capitalism, what does it do? It actually, there are a few people who profit from the worth, intellect, and labor of others by doing absolutely nothing, just by having capital. Much of that capital not ever have been earned. Let me give an example. Let's say Texas. Texas is a huge land with tons of ranches and humongous amount of land. And a few people have stolen that land and they have built their capital, they have built their industries on top of having stolen that land. But we have somebody else who lives next to that land that's in abject poverty. Well, who is really worthy? Who is really the one that is deserving? You know, those are very important questions to ask. How proper is it? Is might more important than honor? There are a lot of things that we have to think about in that regards, right? But again, so Scandinavian countries is what most leftists would be happy with. I want more. I want a true egalitarian society where we have people have commensurate with their real worth. Are you willing to work hard to produce something? Then you should get the rewards. You should reap the rewards of the hard work that you have. As it works in society right now, a few will be invited to be into the fold. A few will be invited to allow their worth to be worth something more than just what the average American worker gets. But you have to be invited. I discuss a whole lot of that in my book, It's Worth It, or rather in my book, How to Make America Utopia. You know, a lot of people think this is a meritocracy. America is not a meritocracy. You have to be invited to be meritorious. I explained that as well in my book, How to Make America Utopia. Anyhow, so we go ahead. There is one phrase that he used that is the coup de grace, the expectation to instill the fear of left into its listeners. He says, resentment and the demand for power disguising itself most reprehensibly as compassion. So he says, we care about people because we want power. We want people to have good health care because we want power. We want people to have their kids taken care of, good insurance, being able to live after they retire because we want power. And what do they want? What do those on the right want by denying giving people the things that they're deserving of? After all, those that are the haves, the wealthy ones, it's not their morality that gained them their wealth. It's not their ability that gained them their wealth. It's not their aptitude that gained them their wealth. Many a times that over amount of wealth that they have was garnered because of a system designed by a few who put a bias towards some, a very few, a bias to success for a few. We can discuss that in detail if anybody wants to go further on that. So let's remember that. It's not about resentment, and it's not about what the left wants would make us tyrannical, because a lot of the things that the right talks about us being tyrannical are all the things under their tenets was done. You know, we're so fearful that those crazy other people on the other side are going to use the nuclear bomb. There's only one country we know for a fact that has the gall, that has the wherewithal to say, I will use this thing on other human beings. And that's why. How do we know that? Because we did it. We have to be cautious. We have to be honest. We have to be humble. We have to remember, before we start pointing fingers and attacking, we have to atone for what we have done and not try to sugarcoat it. We were the ones who used the atomic bomb. We are the ones who enslaved many. We are the ones who committed genocide to take the land of another. We did all of that. There's nothing, I mean, and by the way, it's not intrinsic to this one group of people that came to America. This is done all over the world. So I'm not trying to be a moralist here. I'm trying to be an atoner and saying, if we really want to be honest, if we really want to be successful, if we really want to do what needs to be done, all we really need to do is say, we are at status quo now. And what we will do is do our best without collapsing a system to atone for the deeds. And the right has no desire for that. Their objection to critical race theory, which is intended to keep people dumb with a false sense of superiority that's not there, their objection to empowering people, their objection to giving people the social needs, that is for one and only one reason: to keep a small amount in power and to have an army of the uninformed that ensure they stay in power. Remember, people, let's understand these things in detail. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.